Being away from Beasley for, I think it's been a month now, and being on the road for so many days, it's nice to get back. I think for us, with school being out, some of being on the road was a good thing, but with so many new guys, I think it wore on some guys as well too. But yet at the same time, with the injuries that we've had in this program, I think being on the road was good for some of our new guys. Marvin Cannon has just blossomed over the last 5 or 6 games. Isaiah Wade, the last couple of games, has really found himself and got his game back. CJ's just been incredible at the level of play. So with so many guys being out at different times, from Isaiah to Deontay to Robo, it's given some guys a chance to really step up. Even though we've not had success in the W column, we've seen some great growth for some of those guys individually. With Robo coming back to practice last night, the first thing that I noticed was our passing got a lot better, our scoring got a lot better, and our size got a lot better on the floor. We got that calm back, what I call on the floor as well too. So we certainly have missed him. Is he going to be the answer to all of a sudden things that snap around? He's going to be a big part of it, but we still got to get better at rebounding the ball. We have to get better at shot selection, because I think with him being away, more guys have tried to do things, shoot the ball more, that have allowed us to take some bad shots. And we certainly have to get better at taking care of the basketball. Trying to take those bad shots and do too much has led to some turnovers. And if there's 3 areas I can point to with this team that has really cost us during this stretch of losses, is the fact that we've turned the ball over. And we've turned the ball over without being able to get back and play defense. Those are the worst turnovers you can have. So we're giving up easy buckets off of our turnovers. We've gone away from rebounding as tough, and we've given up easy buckets when teams get second chance points. And then also our bad shots. Our shot selection has led to easy transition buckets as well too. So I've given you 3 areas that are totally within our control that we can make the adjustments and take care of. And I think the fact that Robo coming back will help with those adjustments, because it'll give us more of a, what I would call a natural lineup, natural rotation, natural shot selection, natural ball movement that we certainly had early on this year, where this team is in such great rhythm when they play.
How does a team learn how to play on the road and kind of get over that hump eventually? I know it's a young team, but what has to click before they can win a game on the road?
I think the biggest thing is your leadership on the road. Veteran guys that have been in these arenas, that have been in these games, their preparation and how they get ready to play is contagious to the other players. And then the defensively, you've got to be so tough defensively, and you cannot turn the ball over on the road. You just can't, because every turnover, particularly the kind that you cannot get back and play defense on, it allows a couple of things to happen. Number one, it gives the other team a tremendous amount of confidence playing against you, and it brings the crowd into the game. And for these new guys that have never been on the road, I think that's been the biggest surprise for them, how tough the competition is, and then the energy in the buildings they're playing in. And anytime you turn that ball over, you increase that energy in a big way.
The last 10 minutes against Utah were a different story, looked much better. What are the things you want to see this team build on from those final 10 minutes in your games this week?
Good question. I told them at halftime, before we come back to Pullman, we need to find our game, because I felt like we'd lost our game. And a lot of that, again, with us being out of our natural lineup, rotations, skill sets, all of those things, scoring, all of those things with our injuries in that. It was just very important that we got back to playing the way we were capable of playing, even though we didn't have Robo on the floor. It was a very quiet conversation at halftime, and then about that 8-minute mark, as we were starting to play better, I thought Deontay Daniels did a great job talking to this team in a huddle along those same lines, and we felt like we got our energy back on the road. In the toughest road trip of the conference is the Mountain Schools. The toughest game of that road trip is the second game. In the second half of the second game, we rose up to another level of play. That was a good sign for me. And the fact that Isaiah Wade played so well in that game as well. CJ got back on his game, and we started playing the way we were capable of playing. I thought that was a good thing for us before coming back home. If you want to take a bright spot out of a terrible start to a road season with UW, Colorado, and Utah, that was the bright spot. Although the UW game wasn't a bad game for us. We missed some, had some turnovers in that game. We missed some big scoring out of Robo in that game.
With Robo out, a lot of players are getting bigger minutes for that span he was gone. Specifically, Ellaby, who's playing 30, 35 minutes a game. Is there a concern, a player that's so young, given so much responsibility in that sort of scenario?
I think you can go back or you can look across the country, and there have been a lot of freshmen that have had spectacular freshman season. I think in this day and age, with kids playing so much AAU basketball, I mean, some of these kids coming out of high school over a 2-year span of the double summers, they probably played 60 to 90 extra games. So it's just different. They're different stamina, different body types. As long as physically you can handle the pounding and everything, I think CJ is a very unique player because he has a passion, number one, for the game. He loves to play. And then when you put him on the floor, he loves to run and dunk. That energy that he has just gets ignited when he gets opportunities to do that. So during the course of the game, he has what we call EGBs, energy generating behavior things that happen that give him more energy. With Robo coming back, it's going to give him even more energy. So I'm not worried about that at all. He's playing really, really well. The only thing is 35 minutes is too many minutes. And we've had to do that because of Robo being out. So now with the development of Marvin Cannon, with Isaiah coming back to his game, we can cut his minutes some, and hopefully he'll even be more productive.
You mentioned the mountain trip being the toughest road trip. What makes that trip so tough?
The travel, the altitude, the two teams are always really good. It's just that the crowds are good. It's a tough trip. We've been very fortunate not to deal with UW student section, Colorado student section. Utah student section wasn't as big as they normally are because of school not being in session, but there's still so much energy in the building. But the biggest thing is the travel to get there. We left out of here on Wednesday, and you get into Denver and late, and you take a bus into Boulder, and then you get up and practice and play the next day. You get up on Friday, you jump on a plane, you travel early to get over to Salt Lake. You have to have a practice, then you get to bed and get up and have another shoot around and play again while they're sitting there waiting for you. That's a tough trip. And the first game is not as bad in the altitude, but I don't care which way you play the trip. Utah first, Colorado second, Colorado first, Utah second. You are going to experience some fatigue in that second game somewhere along the line. I thought we did a nice job of subbing guys in and out of the game. They jumped on us quick. We were able to regroup and close out the game with great energy, which was huge. So the biggest thing is just the travel and the altitude, and the two games are spread out. It's even worse when they spread out to Sunday. When you go Thursday, Sunday, you have to sit there an extra day as well too.
Will there be any sort of minutes restriction for Robo, or is he full go tomorrow?
I don't know if I'll start him in the game just initially. I'm not going to talk about that. So there might be some restrictions there, but I'll just have to see how he plays during the course of the game, and then keep my trainer close by and in my ear during timeouts. Because what you don't want to do is have him on the floor playing too fatigued and then sets himself up for injury again. So I'm hoping that with the development of Isaiah, Marvin, and where CJ is playing, we can play him good minutes, but not have to play him so much where we have to wear him out.
But he is for sure back tomorrow?
Yes.
You mentioned
Providing nothing that I don't know of happened after yesterday's practice, but I haven't heard anything, so I'm pretty sure he's good to go.
You mentioned players getting fatigued. Do you look for more guys with more experience in recruiting to look for less fatigue? Or?
No. When I mention players getting fatigued, your style of play, the energy level you have to play at, you'll see a lot of teams that have a lot more stamina playing 7 or 8 guys only, because over the course of the season, that stamina, they get used to playing those major minutes, and therefore they can pace themselves throughout the game. What I mean about fatigue, you can look into the faces of certain guys and you see where they need a break, particularly some of the new guys. And what typically happens with players, if you're a player, you don't want to come out of a game. And that's the worst thing you can do, because you really are hurting the team, particularly if you're sacrificing on the defensive end so you can run down and score on the offensive end. We always have a thing in basketball to say the floor is tilted. It goes really fast when you run down on offense. You're running uphill coming back on defense. When that needs to happen, you need to substitute.
2-3 years ago, Cal was a tournament team. Aside from a coaching change, why do you think they've fallen off a little bit of late?
You look at the whole conference. There are a lot of tournament teams in the conference 2 or 3 years ago, and it's reciprocal where it goes in and out because of the draft, with the transferring portal where people can throw their names in and jump teams so quickly every year. It's no different. It's affected everybody in the conference in one way or another. And in their case, they unloaded a lot of good players, and now they got to build it up again. If you notice, they're playing with, I think it's 4 freshmen and 5 sophomores, something like that. So, okay, if everybody stays and does not transfer, now they get to be juniors and sophomores and then seniors and juniors. when they're seniors and juniors, if they stay together, they're going to be really good because now they've got experience, they got size, they understand the league, they've been through the pressures. Someone else now they're playing the other teams that may have freshmen, sophomores, and they're playing with junior, seniors. If you can get to that balance, that's a really good thing for you.
And then Stanford on Saturday, that's a team with a lot of height, with your team thriving in the transition offense. What's the best way to attack them?
Get them off the boards. That's just a huge game of blocking out and rebounding the basketball because you can't get in transition if teams are scoring the ball, and you're going to get into trouble if they're getting second chance points where they're rebounding and scoring because now you're susceptible to fouling, and you're certainly not going to be able to get out and run as much.
You've got Justice Suing and Cal Demoro had a lot of success against you guys last year. I think 25 in the road game. How do you stop a player like that?
You know, he's had success against a lot of people so far this year, and I don't know if necessarily stop him. You just don't want him to have a monster game and everything else. So he's not the only one you have to worry about. Our defense, again, with Robo being out, we've had to do some different things. We found ourselves a little bit in the Utah game that we can get back to our 1-3-1. We can play in a 2-3. We can play in a 1-3-1 half court, 1-3-1 compact half court, man to man. We can do a lot of things. So throughout the game, we might throw just different looks that they're going to have to see, and then we'll get a feel for which one works best. Are we trapping him? Are you trapping the post? Are you playing in a half court 1-3-1 press? Are you in a full court press? Or are you in a 2-3 zone? There's about 6 or 7 different schemes we kind of look at during the course of a game to get a feel of which one works best against that opponent.
You mentioned transfers. Do you think that the mobility of guys transferring schools helps or hurts college basketball from a coaching perspective?
Boy, from a coaching perspective, it definitely hurts. And from a fan perspective, it definitely hurts. To give you an example again, sitting up here in Pullman, we've had guys in this program that were not the 4-star recruits coming out of high school. You develop them, and then in the 2-year, now all of a sudden they would look like a 4-star recruit, and people are coming after them. And if you not have success, they want to move and go to bigger or greener pastures, I should say. They're going to move. They have the flexibility to do that now, and the right to do that. So you have to really coach what I call in transition all the time because you never know. We've got a great player that came to us that we've got through the recruiting of transfers, and that's Chance Moore that came out of Wichita State. He was on the floor yesterday for the first time, and it's like, wow, this guy's really good. He was a 4-star recruit out of high school that maybe we don't recruit from Louisville, where he lived at, where now he's sitting in our basketball program with 3 years to play because of transferring. So transferring is a major deal. Not only do you recruit high school, you recruit junior college, you definitely recruit transferring. So everybody looks at that portal that those kids put their names into to see who's available, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and will only continue to get bigger, and it becomes a big part of recruiting if you can kind of handpick and look at what's there, particularly if you can get a player that is a 3-year player. And once he gets in your program, you have that chance for him to adapt in a year. In Chance's case, he has from now to this time next year to learn our system, and then he's eligible to play with a Pac-12 conference sitting in front of him at this time next year. He's going to be a really good player, and we're fortunate to get him. And we will continue to look at transfers every year now to recruit them, no different than people have looked at our program and gotten transfers from Washington State. It's just a part of the game now.
Can you talk a little bit about Gervais and Ahmed? What maybe you want to see a little more, or what they're doing well?
I think in Gervais and Ahmed's case, they're at the position on the floor that's the hardest to learn because it's the point guard position. If you look at our team, you look at a guy like Marvin Cannon, his game is just blossom. CJ is just at a whole nother level as a freshman. You look at the level Robo is playing at, even though he's a senior, Deontay Carter, those guys are playing extremely well. The point guard position, it hasn't been established as to who's playing terrific yet. Why? Because they've got to learn offense from point of attack, running a team. Not only do you have to learn their plays, but know everybody else's plays. They've got to be able to understand what I'm thinking because they're the quarterbacks on the floor, and they've got to be able to manage the team during the free throw line, manage the team on an out-of-bounds play, manage the team at a timeout. That's a lot. And not having to do that before, or to think they have to do it here, it's a shock to your system. And then on top of all that, their point of attack on defense, where they're out there in front too. And that's a lot of pressure on you where you're handling the ball and you're defending the ball, and now you're at a level doing it where everybody is a good player at the guard spot. Bigger, stronger, more experienced. It just takes time. So the key thing with them is to be patient. They both kind of give you a little bit of something that uniquely they're really good, Both have had an opportunity to win games for us or carry us during games. I'm still looking for them to grow even more. Not one versus the other. They both have to grow because there's times we can put them both on the floor together.
I think, Coach.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.